MMA fighting here with Kron Gracie at UFC Phoenix Media Day, who fights Alex Caceres here on Sunday night. And Kron, first question, this has been a long time coming. How did this come together? How did you get to this place where you are now making your UFC debut?
First, I started training when I was a little kid. My dad was a fighter. My grandfather was also a fighter. And then here I am.
I guess I meant more, how did this come together? Because it has been a while since we have seen you. It's been a couple years. I think this surprised a lot of people sort of when this was announced.
Yeah, I was fighting in Japan, and then got to a point where Japan just didn't have the fights for me that I wanted and didn't have the amount of events. So it took some time to get everything squared away. And here we are, And I think the UFC is kind of where I want to be able to have a lot of fights, be able to fight tough fights, be able to fight the best, and finish my career here.
What was the purpose, I guess, of the 2.5-year layoff? Was it just contractual issues, you couldn't get to where you were trying to get to, or were there other things involved?
It's not exactly 2.5 years. It's closer. It's 2 and a little bit, but. There's a lot of things that happens, but some of it is the contract issues, some of it is time off, some of it is personal stuff in my life, and it all leads to me fighting. So I'm glad I took that time off. It was good for me in a lot of different ways, and I don't want to do it again, though. I think the time off was good at that time, and it was necessary for many reasons, but at this point, I'm trying to fight, so I don't want to take that much time off. I want to keep it going. I want to have fights when I'm healthy. I want to have fights as much as possible.
Well, it's just nice to have a Gracie back in the UFC. I will say it feels refreshing. I wonder for you, man. Do you feel a sense of pressure just having that name coming into the UFC like this?
Usually, I do pretty good with the pressure. I think it's natural. Everybody wants to put expectations and put pressure on me, and it's easy to because my dad never lost a fight, and my grandfather was the one who created jiu-jitsu, so it's easy to put that pressure and put all these expectations. I've been dealing with this kind of stuff since I was a little kid. When I'm a 9-year-old kid, everybody's pointing at me like, oh, that's Rickson's son. Oh, that's Rickson's son. So at 9 years old, I'm already dealing with people pointing at me in a jiu-jitsu tournament, and everybody's watching me fight, expecting me to win or lose or whatever they're watching. So it's nothing new to me, to tell you the truth. I think it's just new. It just gets newer for everybody else. The more people that find out about me, it becomes a new person with new expectations. So as it gets bigger, it becomes more of a buzz. But for me, I've always been the center of every competition. I've always been highlighted, and people always want to see me either win or lose, just because of the fact of who I was. And as a kid growing up, I always wanted to outlive my dad's shadow. I never wanted to be Rickson's son. As a little kid, people would introduce me, oh, this is Rickson's son, or this is Rickson's son. And so I hated that, and I always wanted to outgrow that. And I have outgrown that. So at this point, everything I do is a bonus, it's a plus, and I'm very happy to be healthy, grateful to be representing, grateful to be even able to fight and be on this stage and show some skills. So it's a good day.
Well, it's interesting the matchup you've gotten coming into this, right? Because you've had 4 pro fights, obviously a lot of experience in grappling, but 4 pro fights. Alex Caceres, this will be his 20th UFC fight alone, not even just counting fights outside of the UFC. Is this the type of matchup you wanted right off the bat, someone so experienced?
I actually wanted somebody better, and then they gave me this fight at the last minute. But ultimately, yeah, he has a lot of experience, and he has a lot of, creativeness in his style and stuff. So it's going to be a good test,
It's interesting. You say you wanted someone better. Did you just want to start, I guess, feet hitting the ground, hitting these contenders? Like, where do you feel like you stand, sort of in this division, and I guess even in this sport?
Well, that's what I was trying to find out, I wanted to kind of see the best fight I could get and see where I'm at. I'd rather have a tough fight with somebody who's up there than, have a fight with somebody who's, not been the best, So ultimately, I feel like Alex Caceres, he's a little underestimated in overall. He has good stand-up, and he has enough experience to do a lot of tricky things. So even though his ground game, from what we see, is not the best, I think that, you never know in a fight, So I think he has a lot of experience. It's gonna help him. I have a lot of experience. It's gonna help me, and that's what we're gonna have to pay-per-view. We're gonna have to see what happens.
It's interesting you mentioned his ground game because most of his losses are by submission. Do you feel like this is a beneficial matchup for you, just styles-wise?
Not always, Not always. I don't think that just because he doesn't have the. I think if it gets to the ground, obviously, it's going to be an advantage for me. But I think he can run a lot. I personally prefer a fight who's going to come and try to fight me, as opposed to somebody who's going to run away. So personally, for me, I think that I would like to fight people who are trying to kill me, as opposed to somebody who's going to run away from me. So you don't always know.
Who will be cornering you for this one?
Huh?
Who will be cornering you for this debut?
I think Nate will be in my corner.
Anybody else?
I don't know. We'll see.
So Nate, you're obviously talking about Nate Diaz. Did he give you any advice before this big day?
Nate's just been a great friend and a great training partner ever since I met him. So the advice is always, he's always a good example of how he carries himself under pressure in training with the people. And having him in my life has always been, no matter how much I get to see him, it's always been a great positive thing for me.
Well, I must ask, because you would know better than most of us. Dana White's here always saying that Nate Diaz doesn't want to fight anymore. Does Nate want to get back in there? Should we expect to see Nate at some point in 2019?
I think only Nate can answer those questions. As a fan, I want to see them both fight, but as a friend, I know what it takes, and it's not easy training for a fight. It's not. It's very, it's a tough thing, training for a fight. So if they never choose to fight again, I'm happy with that too. But if he does want to fight, I'll be there helping him and in support fully.
Well, then my final question, man, and I appreciate the time today. First Gracie in the UFC since Hodger in 2013. Member of the Gracie family, hasn't won a UFC fight since 1994. Would it mean something special to you to be the one to break that streak?
Yeah, I didn't even know all that stuff until you guys keep saying it, but it's pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah.
So I think it kind of feels like a movie sometimes. Me being the son of Rickson and me being the grandson of Elu and having the style that I have, I think that in a lot of ways it kind of feels like a movie to me. Sometimes I kind of have to shake myself and realize that I'm in this position. But now that I'm in this position, let's do what we got to do.
Awesome. Welcome here, and I appreciate the time, man. Good luck this weekend.